This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Everything you want, desire, and need is within you, and you are worthy of love. Wild Moon Healing is the personal journey of self-exploration through which you create your life based on how you want to feel. It is not about the law of attraction, manifesting material wealth, or manifesting other people's desires. Rather, Wild Moon Healing is about recovering from the life experiences that have hurt us. It is an inward, truth-seeking journey to gain clarity about your life's purpose. And, if you choose, to harness the energy of lunar cycles to gain momentum on your healing path. The moon puts us in a reflective state of mind, and its phases offer us a schedule to follow so we can heal and live in an authentic life. A consistent practice of Wild Moon Healing is an investment in discovering what you believe, value, and enjoy. As you discover your strength and character, you change the way you view yourself and you transform. Part of the transformation involves gaining clarity about what is right in your life. The pain comes, the pain goes. Then it comes again. You become angry with yourself. Everything must be perfect. You loathe yourself. Everything is chaos. Today is amazing. Tomorrow, not so much. One lunar cycle, you can commit to that. Use her energy. You go after your goal, then hit a barrier in your progress. Life is a dance. Recognize the steps. She illuminates what you need to see. Find your inspiration in her. Become excited and have fun. Moon work is effective. Its energy real. Discover your true self. Restore and heal. You will create your amazing life. Persevere through Wild Moon Healing. Prioritize self-care. Discover, grow, and become the person you are meant to be, because that is a beautiful thing. Valeria interviews Donna Conley. She is the author of Wild Moon Healing, Harness the Energy of Lunar Cycles to Awaken Your Inner Truth. Determined to become an advocate for mental health, Donna S. Conley developed an integrated approach to teach people to discover who they are, what they want, and how to love and accept themselves so they can live their best lives. She began a career as an energy coach, sound healer, meditation teacher, blogger, and wrote Wild Moon Healing while working full-time in corporate America. Donna is working toward her goal of transitioning to a full-time career to help remove the stigma of mental health and normalize loving, committing, believing, and respecting yourself. Donna has had a successful career in the human resources field for over 20 years. She earned a master's degree in her field from UMUC and is a certified health and well-being coach from Duke Health. Human resources is the business of people, and Donna has professionally helped, supported, and touched the lives of many people during her career. She was born and raised in Riva, Maryland, but has always considered Reedy, West Virginia, her home. That is where her mind wanders when she thinks about growing up and the summers she spent at her nan-nans. Her Appalachia heritage instilled in her love for mountains and the moon. Donna is the proud mother of a United States Marine. If you can't find her, she's most likely in the woods discovering a new trail to hike, or simply admiring the moon. From a total wellness perspective and addressing people as a whole, she believes strongly in the spiritual aspects of health in addition to physical and mental health. She deeply believes everyone has their own inner magic and can use it to create their best life and inspire others. Wild Moon Healing is Donna's first published work. Meet Donna at wildmoonhealers.com. Here's the interview with Donna Conley.
In your own words, who is Donna Conley?
Donna Conley is someone that you can depend on, someone who's creates safe space for herself as well as others. I'm someone who wants to tell my story and help other people heal through my story as inspiration.
What makes us get to that place of feeling safe within our own selves? And what is to feel safe in a sense of you creating that space for others? What would that feel like for them from that perspective?
Yeah, well, for me, it comes from a vulnerable place. When you see my truth or that, my honesty and my authenticity, then if I can be vulnerable with you, then that helps you feel safe, even if you don't share back. But you see it in people's body language too. They can feel relaxed and calm, and that they know there's no judgment or anything coming their way that's negative.
Why do we try to hide our vulnerabilities, the things that are that's true to us? Why do we often, for some of us, it's certainly not my case at this time because of the work I've been doing, what makes us to hide our own truth and not be vulnerable?
The top level answer is fear. And fear can come from so many different ways and take shape, like a fear of offending your family or disappointing your family. Even something from your past that creates feelings in you of like guilt and shame, and they hold us back from our future potential.
Do you believe that love and fear, they are opposites?
I do. I believe that love and fear can't live in the same place. You can desire love or freedom or, however you state what you want, but as long as you're living in fear, you can't realize those things. And you can feel love or affection for someone, but until you truly love yourself, you can't really experience love and affection in the way that you may want.
Sounds like common sense to love ourselves. It really does, doesn't it, Donna? But it's not something that we do naturally or automatically.
Yeah, we don't. I really would love to be a person who influences future generations to teach their children to love themselves from infancy. But the truth is, not everybody has that mom that's going to make them brush their teeth before they go to bed. And not everyone has that dad that comes home every night. There's just, we have these ideals of what is perfect. Like even the perfect ending. People dream about living to an old age and they're surrounded by all their loved ones as they, depart this earth. But not many people get that story for their reality, and, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because our experience, we deem it not normal because it doesn't fit this picturesque, thing that we have in our minds.
Right, which is very much constructed, right? We create those ideas, we kind of believe them, or we kind of listen to them from the outside, and then we ended up being programmed in a way. Yeah, it has been my case for so long. When I was 37, 46 now, and I remember living in fear up to that age. And then little by little, kind of letting it go. It's not easy, though, to let go of those patterns that they feel very familiar to us. And I remember getting in relationships even because they felt familiar with my settings growing up, my father, my mother, and they were not the healthiest people in the world. well, I have to leave it at that. I wrote a book about it, actually. But yes, you understand what I'm trying to get to. So that was a really was an interesting journey to just letting go of all that. And I don't think at this point, I don't think everything is has been clear per se. So interestingly, yesterday I ordered a Brazilian lotion. And that's the summer here, or in Florida is really hot. And then, and I usually don't do that. I just buy whatever it is from the drugstore, whatever creams, lotions. But then this one came on Amazon and I just ordered it and I got it. Then I used it yesterday. Then I started having some memories from the past came back. I have been here. I left Brazil so long ago. It has been 25 years. And then I had dreams even of walking on the street of my old town. So talk to me for a moment about these memories. Are they like embedded in our cells? Because that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, right now, you are every age you've ever been, every experience you've ever had, every feeling, emotion, everything up to this point that is your collective experience makes who you are right now. They don't leave you. Some people want to heal from their trauma thinking that they can erase it. You can't unlearn or unexperience or unsee certain things that are part of your experience.
Wow. That is amazing. So when we say we are healed from something, like in my case, a lot of childhood traumas and all that, it's actually, you'd say, have been transformed, perhaps, but not healed, because healed would imply, actually, I don't know. How do you, what's your perspective on that, Donna?
You can heal from the effects of your experiences, So you can release shame and guilt and unhappiness and even like a negative relationship to money, that all these things that you don't think are related to some bad experience you may have had, but those are just the effects of that experience that you brought into your present life and future. And those things you can heal from. You don't have to live a life of shame. You don't have to live a life of guilt. You don't have to live a life feeling that you are unloved or unworthy of love. You can heal from those feelings, but not necessarily the trauma itself, right?
Yes, that really resonates true to me. So in a way, it's, let's say, reinterpreting the experience. Because I remember making conclusions about what my experience was, how it made me feel, and I kept kind of holding on to that feeling, and to the point where I was able to release them, right? That misunderstanding. So, and then it changed everything. That makes so much sense to me. What is the goal of healing? So when we talk about healing in my website, it's like, that's the main word, the key word per se, healing and spirituality, two things. So those two words, they are reoccurring. So what's the goal of healing in general?
In my definition, I would say the goal is to be able to live authentically, to be able to say, do, and think things that somebody else might look down their nose at you, but that's okay. When you get to that point, that's when life changes. And it's not a negative, like you don't have any disregard for the outcome of what you're doing now, but it's just saying that I'm me and I'm allowed to be me. And when you get there, healing doesn't stop. But once you get to that place, your journey is really going to take off.
So authenticity, in a sense of, the way you say, of course, is very easy to understand. I usually say it kind of embracing our own truth, being true to ourselves. That's what it keeps coming to me as a message, which is the same thing, authenticity. Yes. Talk to me about the journey to the now, to being who you are with this beautiful, profound wisdom. How did you get here, Donna?
Well, I lived long enough to make a whole bunch of bad
Yeah.
decisions,
Tell me
and
about it. Yeah.
yeah, and I never really correlated my early years to the way I was living my life in my adult years. But I saw how those things did affect me into my teens, 20s, 30s. And I was at a point where my body was shutting down. I was in a job that I was very unhappy with. Really, there was not any area of my life where I was really happy. And it had to happen slowly. First I quit smoking. I took out nicotine, and then I got sober. And the healing of my body is like the last thing. I still have some things I'm working on, but once you get to that point where it's only physical, at least in my experience, it's you can really see your future. Like, wow, I've done all of this work that allows me to now, live my truth. I didn't realize, I was writing a book or even on a healing journey. I was on a quest for physical health. And once I realized that I needed to take responsibility and accountability, I can't keep going to a doctor while I'm smoking a pack of cigarettes and drinking, to the point of blackout. You can't do that. If you go to a doctor for help and you don't change anything, you're not going to, heal anything at all. And yeah, my friends started noticing changes in me.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know what you're doing, but show me.
Yes.
And, up to
Yeah.
that point, my spiritual journey was just personal. And so then I started telling them, I'm manifesting with the moon. And as I was teaching them, I didn't realize at the time, but I was writing a draft of my book, Wild Moon Healing. And, so the book kind of wrote itself throughout my journey. Yeah.
That's beautiful when it happens. It's magical, isn't it? And in a way, that's how I think about us human beings and everything that's here. It's just kind of thinking itself, creating itself, transforming itself, everything. So that's a very interesting topic that I often don't come across. I just interviewed somebody recently about the moon. She holds ceremonies, and it's beautiful to the way she describes the rituals and all. So is this, so Wild Moon Healing, that's the title of your book, harness the energy of lunar cycles to awaken your inner truth. How is the moon being, everything's spiritual to me, but from your perspective, the moon being a physical thing becomes a spiritual practice. It's within the topic of spirituality, so it's spiritual healing. I would love to hear more about you, about the moon and spirituality, the connection.
Yeah, the very first time, and I remember so well that I was looking up at a full moon, and I'm like, wow, it's another full moon, because the full moon has always caught my attention, the beauty and the mystery of it. But I was like, it's another full moon, and I haven't achieved anything that I've set out to do. And so I kind of challenged myself. Well, let's see what you can do by the next full moon. And when you really start paying attention to your time, you realize you waste a lot of time. And my study became spiritual because I wanted to know more about this pull to the moon that I had. And I just started working with different lunar cycles and realizing under different zodiac influences, how my experience changed with each phase of the moon and depending on the, astrological influence. And it just really captivated me. And it So now that's what I teach as a coach, how to follow lunar cycles to create your best life. But it also brings it into a manageable 4-week block of time. It's like I'm not making this goal that I know I'm going to finish in maybe 18 months. That's too far in the future. So some people aren't on the spiritual side with me, but from the practical side of, well, I can invest in a month of doing this to see what happens. That's where it
Yeah.
all starts, I think, for some people.
That's true. Curiosity. That's for sure. That's for me has been the door to so much, uncovering, learning so much, being open. So I will be asking you more questions about that. But before that, there's something else that caught my attention when you talked about not being happy, and even as I said off record, your book has 47 exercises, and you say these exercises are to help guide you to happiness and the life you love or life you love. What is your definition of happiness these days, Donna?
Well, happiness is something that people try to attain, but you can only experience it in the right now. It's happiness is not just a feeling, but it's also an experience. And you can't, if you're worried about yesterday or you're worried about tomorrow, you can't be in this mode of right now being happy. People plan their families. We can't have our first child until we reach this much income, and they try to plan happiness and perfection, and it just doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is right now, and being able to find even if your current situation is unhealthy, if you can find something to be grateful for, that's living right now, and just anything that you can see as beautiful or just anywhere in nature or anything, even if it's not your current experience, that's how you start to grasp what happy is.
For me, has been interesting this understanding of happiness. The more I find answers within the spiritual realm, I find that if I keep trying to be happy because of something or someone or circumstances or even state of mind, then it's fleeting most of the time, and it's fleeting, it's just not reliable, and it just doesn't attract me anymore, although I'm still trapped within that too, and being happy when, let's say, my dog does something. He's just so cute, then I can't help it but be happy. So, and that's okay because very spontaneous in the moment too, but I'm trying to kind of practice and embrace, however possible, the possibility that happiness cannot be, it's free. It kind of happens. It's not something that we can chase.
It's subjective. Happy isn't just one thing. And what makes you happy is different from what makes me happy and everybody else. So the meaning behind happiness, that's where it is. So when you have meaning, I guess, in your life and what you're doing and what you're working toward, that in and of itself is happiness, right?
Yes, right. Even the feeling of being whole, complete, fulfilled now, then that brings a sense of meaning and kind of, and then from that, with the foundation, happiness kind of shows up more often. That's what I have been experiencing. But it's something that I don't see, but it's not something that we can make a concept out of it, or a plan, or I don't know, a program, a course, or something like that. It's just
and you can't hang on to it,
Right.
Stub your toe, or have a car accident on the way to work, and anything. Life keeps going, and not every experience is going to be a happy one. And, so you can remember happy times, but you still need to look forward and, like go back to gratitude, finding gratitude in something when it's an unhappy time, because a happy time is coming. Everything is cyclical, just like the moon, right?
Yes. Yeah, I hear wisdom with that, right? It's constantly changing, transforming, right?
Yeah.
So I guess another word I use a lot, a concept, is inner peace. So I kind of focus more on inner peace than happiness. And then from that, happiness arises. And inner peace to me has to do with that idea of being complete and whole. This is it, like this moment. If the whole journey of body mind ended here, then it would be okay. I'll be not happy, but at peace. I use that word a lot.
Yes. Well, I love that, because happiness is, most people, something outside of them will determine their level of happiness, but inner peace, that's when you have that inside of yourself, because you can't control anything outside of yourself. That's what I love about that, what you just said.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yes. So that's my focus. But it's a practice like everything else, right, Donna? It's not something that practice for the body mind. But there is something here that's eternal, that's permanent, that I can sense. But I don't think I can sense. It cannot be experienced. But within the experience can be realized that there's something else besides body mind, something that is aware of the content of the mind and obviously the body, the physical body. So it's that has been my practice, which is a very spiritual one based on Vedanta. I'm not sure if you heard about this Hindu philosophy. It's a non-duality philosophy. This is another podcast conversation. So talk to me a bit more about the book and also the Wild Moon Healing. Is that you also offer are they gatherings, a course program besides the book? How do you kind of dance with this Wild Moon Healing concept in practice?
In practice, it's a personal practice.
Yeah.
I do have some friends where we do some full moon rituals together.
Right.
But usually our lives are so busy. Sometimes we've even Zoomed each other in, but most of the time it's just a personal practice. In my coaching, I try to teach people to use their own autonomy to create what feels right to them. And the consistency of it is the word daily practice. It's you can't wait just for a full moon, or you can't just put like meditation, how to do it, in your back pocket and then pull it out when something is upsetting and you're trying to calm down. You need a daily practice. So following the moon is just a small piece of it's just a physical thing that you can see and track as the moon grows and shrinks in the sky. But if you want to follow the moon, you need to learn about the sun. It brings everything is balance.
Yes, and that is so true. Everything's balance. Yeah, which is really, I can visualize that as this dynamic happening movement. It's always, right, one day. It's a movement. That's what basically this is, the experience of, the experiences, right, Donna, in general. They are movements, right, of being balanced and then being out of balance to go back to balance. So it's an interesting dance. How amazing.
And when you're following lunar cycles along with those exercises in my book, the focus changes with each of the phases, but at the same time the focus remains on you, because you're the only thing you can control. And so that's there's 47 exercises, but a lot of people will come at it differently. So you can pick and choose the ones that feel right to you.
Yes, I love that, because there's something about the human experience that it's very individualized. It's very unique, although it's one essence from my perspective, just one reality, not two. But it's so, it's wonderful to just see how diverse it is. It's just so amazing how the one can become all this multiplicity, and it's so unique. And there's something in your book, I think this I found in your book, on your bio, I'm not sure. You say everything you want, desire, and need is within you. So that caught my attention because it's exactly that. Within you, what I see is that essence. So accessing the essence that connects everything will illumine the truth, which is usually a universal one.
Yeah, people learn, yeah, they try to learn how to experience love and all of these things, but all of these wonderful things reside in each and every one of us, even if we don't realize it right now, because we get caught up in our experience and our environment and things that pull us in. But everything you need is within you. You don't have to hang on to this person in an unhealthy relationship to feel needed. You're needed inside. It's all love and feeling of worthiness and compassion and empathy. You're allowed to feel all of these things for yourself and within yourself.
Yeah, talk to me about the you call it delicate ego. Why did you choose to use this description for the ego?
Well, the ego is, people, I guess, don't really understand it. It has a very, very important job. It just tends to do it too well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
if you have any experience where someone made fun of you or whatever that experience happens to be, the ego never forgets. And that's when we start building these walls of protection. The ego is like, nope, don't do that. That might harm you again. And, it keeps you from healthy relationships. It keeps you from doing things that you enjoy. So that's in that respect, the ego is very delicate because it doesn't take much for it to start throwing up all these protections to make sure that doesn't happen to you again.
So once we find our own truth, the deeper we go into who we are, is the ego integrated? It's removed? What happens to the ego, Donna? And what emerges? What would you call that, which is driving our lives?
They work more well together. It's that whole balancing act within from the ego and the subconscious. It's like the ego might be like, oh, we have to do this. And the subconscious is like, no, we really don't. And it's more of an ebb and flow and a balance inside that lets you live, but obviously, not doing something that will bring you harm without, jeopardizing your happiness and fulfillment.
Yeah. So you call it the subconscious. That's interesting. I usually refer to that. Consciousness. I usually call it pure consciousness, or I would say the heart. Some people call the soul, the spirit. It's interesting to hear the subconscious, which is that part of us that's let's say wiser, right? That holds a lot of universal wisdom. Would that be a general description?
Yeah, I think as you grow in spirituality, the subconscious becomes the conscious because you're more in line with the divine or your higher self or however you define it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. So in a way now the ego is being let's say, is being trained to listen, right, to the subconscious, to the heart, as I call it, or pure consciousness. You also talk about the divine feminine, which has to do with the moon. In a book, you say the divine feminine energy of the moon should remind you that you were made wonderfully and are whole, just as life has molded you. So that resonated true to me, speaking of wholeness, being complete and wonderful. So divine feminine energy is the moon a representation of that which is within ourselves? We have both, right, Donna, the feminine and the masculine.
Everybody, and it's not a gender thing, it's an energetic thing.
Right.
So the divine feminine is more on the side of your emotions and your feelings, which we are our own worst critic. But when you have, a oneness with the divine feminine energy, you learn to show yourself more grace and things that honor yourself in ways that make you feel good.
And the more I kind of, let's say, feel these energies, the more I see that the feminine energy is so much more in alignment with what we call, let's say, enlightenment, or
Yes.
the spiritual mind, or the heart. I'm wondering why. I know that the masculine energy is very important too, because it leads us to do something. I think that has to do with putting kind of the inspiration that's being harnessed by the feminine. Now it's being kind of expressed through action by the masculine energy, I think.
Yes. Well, the more you're in tune with your feminine side, the more your actions are going to show your true nature. And, if I see, behavior that's anger or this, they're hiding something. I see hurt when I see somebody, you know, behaving in an unloving manner. Um, and when you in tune to the moon and these divine feminine energies, it just helps you show, as you learn to show grace to yourself, you're able to do so with everyone else.
Yes, wow, beautifully said. Yes. You see, that's wisdom it's transcendent, it's universal, in the sense that if we all understood this much, then this reality would be very, very much different than it is now. Would end all conflicts, because then we would see, right, the expression of anger, resentment, violence as pain. Oh, they're hurt. How can I help? Instead of criticizing or making things worse, or retaliating, right? Going against that, kind of trying to stop violence with violence, which we see that a lot.
That doesn't work. Yeah, they say I've heard it a whole million times, love makes the world go round. But I think the meaning is even deeper. Self-love makes the world go round, because if you don't love yourself, you can't show true love to anybody else.
Yes, yes, I must agree. I know I'm on the path of knowledge and exploration, so I keep myself open, and I do ask. I have met so many amazing people, and I keep asking that question: what is self-love to you? Self-love, was so much. And I remember hearing, I think 2 or 3 people saying, not necessarily. It's possible to love somebody before we love ourselves, and then learn how to love ourselves. So I got that answer, and then I was trying to be open to that, and I think I was in the moment, and maybe that could, I was trying to visualize the experience of loving somebody else first. How could that be possible? Because we cannot give what we don't have if we don't have a reference of what love is, right? How could we give?
Yeah, I guess I think that when people say love, we can give our time to other people, our compassion to other people. But if you're giving love to someone, love is, it transcends everything else. And maybe you think you're giving love, but maybe you're giving attentiveness, and you're, like I said, compassion and things like that, giving them your time and listening. But what is true love? Well, if you truly give someone love, that, from a divine sense, there isn't much greater than that.
Yes. So that's a very good kind of explanation for that. It's almost like another question, like, what is love to you? Like, describe what love is. When, I should have asked that question to her. I think I didn't. But yes, that also makes a lot of sense, right? What is love?
Yeah, I think It's all a matter of vocabulary. Like some people are like, I was so traumatized. But what they really should say is, I was disgusted or revolted. I think some people use the word love in the wrong sense. There's a different word that's better for what's happening in their life.
Yeah, yes, yeah, that's so true. And love to me, it's highly spiritual, right? It comes from that
Yes.
understanding that it's everything. It's inclusive. So there's nothing that is left on the outside. There's no outside anyway. So it's like the sense of accepting myself as a whole, exactly as I am. Everything. I was just thinking about this today because I felt the body kind of responding to that smell. Remember that lotion that I mentioned, that Brazilian lotion? I'm like, oh, where's this coming from? So when the mind was about to judge those memories, I thought it was over that. Then something came and said, it's okay. It's okay too for them to come and visit all those memories.
Yes.
And that's love. It felt like love. And then
Yes, I love that. So you honored that moment in time where it was like, I'm allowed to remember this. I'm allowed to, it's all okay.
I love I think it's under Moon Work for a Healthy Mind. You talk about healthy boundaries. That caught my attention too, because I remember that had been one of my biggest, let's say, challenges, to create boundaries, to say no to people and things. It's getting better now, but I still see it's not easy. So I'd love to hear a bit more. Talk to me about healthy boundaries. How do we learn to get there? What's the safest way to open up and start to open up in the sense of loving ourselves enough to say no to others when we mean to say no?
Well, I think in order to create a healthy boundary, you have to yourself be in a healthy place. If you feel unsafe, you're not going to speak up and say what will be the best thing for you if you are afraid of retaliation or something. So sometimes in order to build a healthy boundary, you might have to sever a relationship completely, and sometimes it's, as tangible as your diet. That's a boundary. I said, I'm not going to drink alcohol, or I'm not going to have sweets or whatever. These are boundaries we create with ourselves. And when you can't even hold your personal boundaries, creating a healthy boundary with your external environment is even more difficult.
So another thing you said in the book that caught my attention, you said men and women experience and express depression differently.
Well, I think for men, the hard part is that whole outward masculinity, not masculine energy, but that outward masculinity. They need to be so many things. They have to provide and do all these things for their family or even, themselves, but to tap into their emotional side is always more difficult. And depression is an emotional state. It's our body is saying something isn't balanced, and sometimes you really have to go inward to see these things. Whereas women, we have many plates or balls in the air, right? We used to doing all of these things, and we're used to being everything for everyone, but maybe not necessarily being recognized for it. Whereas a man, like he sees a man would see his job as these basic things. I have to make sure there's a house, there's a paycheck coming in, there's food coming in. And, it's a little bit harder for them to get to the emotional side of, what is driving this behavior. It's okay. It's okay for men to chase their dreams. They don't have to just inherit the family farm, or the family business, whatever it is. They're allowed to go out and find out what makes them happy, and it's not just making a paycheck to pay the bills. That's just basic living.
In your book, you also said, I think under my story, Living with Depression, you said the best way I came up with to tell my story of my depression and figure out how to fix myself was to journal and describe my life through a sort of timeline. So you also give the exercise is called timeline journaling. So I would love to hear the description of that. I never heard about timeline journaling, actually. That's unique.
I believe there are, when you think about an illness like diabetes, there's type 1 and type 2 diabetes. And I believe that depression is the same way, whereas this type 2 depression is based on your lifestyle. And when I looked back and I looked at all of these stressful things that had happened in my life that led up to the point of being diagnosed with depression, I never went inside. I never looked for stillness. I was just going and dealing with one fire after the other. And, some things were not even real. It was the fear when my son would be deployed. The fear of something happening to him would, take my full attention. And, and other things that did happen, it just, some things are out of your control. But back in those days, I drank to deal with those things, which isn't dealing with them, right? It's just momentarily forgetting about them. And, so I wasn't dealing with the struggles of my life and the emotions that came up as a result.
Wow, and that, for some reason, so this is common actually within women as well, Donna, drinking, because I see that men doing that a lot. I never done it myself, but I see men doing it.
Yeah.
It happens with women too.
I don't remember these statistics, but I was reading something very recently that were showing almost an equal amount of women now turning to alcohol, as used to be men was dominant, but it's I don't remember what I was reading, but they were showing how that gap is definitely more narrow than it used to be.
Yes, that's sad to hear, because that also means that women are being driven by masculine energies. That's what it feels like, is the doing, always doing something to fix something else instead of stopping, right, and pausing and listening. That's sad to hear, and I thought it was getting better. The whole feminine movement with the feminine energies, which it feels like it's, for me, within my own world, I guess, is becoming a lot more feminine in that sense, in a sense of spirituality rising, the spiritual mind. But I guess I'm not out there that much, so I don't know. I don't watch TV or any of those things, so I don't know what's happening. So another part, we're almost at the end. I love the chapter 7 in your book. It's about restorative work. And then there you outline, restore the physical body. You have the mind, restore the mind, the emotional self, and the spirit. And you have amazing exercises, lots of them. Wow.
And you have to learn to balance all of those things. If you're just gung-ho on working out, then you're missing a whole nother part of yourself that needs attention as well, right?
Yes, for sure. I usually start with the spirit these days. I always go for that as a foundation, and then everything else seems to fall into balance, little by little, of course. It feels like they're balanced somehow. So that's my focus. But I know there's no really, it's not linear, right? We can just start anywhere. Some people start with the body. There are a lot of, in spiritual traditions, they do have the yoga of Tantra, which they're using the physical energies, right, to get to these higher spiritual understandings. And then some people use the mind, and then it goes on and on. But for some reason, I like the subtle, I don't know how to pronounce that word. I think it hopefully exists. I like subtle things. So the more subtle, the better. The deeper, the better. For some reason, I'm very attracted to anything that's subtle. But I love the exercise, though. They tap into everything, all these components, all the pieces, they are not really pieces, but they feel like, right? The body feels separate a lot of times, but it's not separate. And then at the end of the book, you do have a symbol that caught my attention too, a beautiful symbol. I was looking at it for a long time. I don't know the pronunciation of, how do you pronounce that?
Unilome.
Unilome, yeah. Talk to me about that symbol. It's beautiful.
That one in particular, my sister is very, very talented, and she does what she calls energetic sketching. And so I asked her if she could make a unilome for me. The semicolon at the bottom was very important, but that unilome, she did her way. So the moon at the top is actually stands for a C for Conley, and there are 2 dots, which would be stars outside of the moon, and those are for my mom and my brother that we've lost. And then the stars on the inside of the moon are us that are still here. She drew that in about 3 minutes.
Wow,
Yes.
That's amazing. It's beautiful.
She sketched that up for me, but it expresses life. Life is not straight, and it's not linear.
Yeah.
And
right.
It's, when you look at it as a unilome, it's like a beautiful mess, right?
Haha, beautiful mess, right? True. So this is something that it's very unique too. It's not an universal. It's made of universal symbols, but it's not really as a whole. It's has to do with your life, your energies. Is that what it is? Yeah, I never heard.
It really does. Yes.
Wow. It's beautiful. I was looking. Yeah, I'm very attracted to symbols too, especially those mystical symbols, sacred symbols. I have them around my room too, if you could see it. The flower of life, those other symbols. The moon, of course, I have the moon here. Yeah, how beautiful. I love everything about you, Donna.
Oh, thank you.
Talking to you today is just throughout this conversation has been very peaceful. Very healing and sacred. That's what the word that comes to me too.
That's beautiful.
Thank you so much, for sharing you with us in this reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
What 3 experiences you wish everyone to have before they die, before they lose the body?
To know unconditional love. To experience family as inclusiveness rather than biology. And I guess to just experience being them and how amazing it would be to show their truth to the world, because we're all unique. And that's how we can learn and grow, is by everyone's individuality.
So true. Thank you so much for sharing timeless wisdom. We all need to be reminded of these things, don't we? All of us.
Yes.
Yeah. So thanks so much for being that beautiful reminder today. So before we say goodbye, where is the best place to find more information about you and your work? Your book, I'll have the link, the Amazon link on your podcast profile as well.
Okay. My website is wildmoonhealers.com. And on social media, Facebook or Instagram is Wild Moon Healers.
Wonderful. I'll have those links on your podcast profile when it's live. Thank you so much again for your presence, Donna, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Donna Conley and her work, please visit wildmoonhealers.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.